Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. As you can see, I got new equipment. My husband gave me an early birthday present of a Sony ZV-1, so I'm experimenting with a new video using that as my audio and video source. Also, I found a shirt. It was packed away from all my other shirts, probably because I got it, I don't know, maybe about 6 years ago. Judges Guild made me think I should talk about Judges Guild, probably the biggest influence to the games I've made that nobody ever knows about, nobody ever talks about. So let me explain what they are. Judges Guild is probably best known for this module, the City-State of the Invincible Overlord. Huge thing when it came out, I think in 1977. It came with this enormous map. I will unfold it and just let you see how big it is. This is the City-State. It's huge. Got a castle in it, big city, hundreds of shops, all detailed in the book. You have hundreds of shopkeepers, you have their names, you have their stats, you have their alignment, you have their equipment, you have who they know, what they do, who they like, who they don't like. There are rumors that each of them know that they might tell you if you pay them or just if they like you. It blew my mind. It blew teenage Tim's mind. But there was a reason I got into this. When I started playing D&D, I had no money. My family wasn't well off. So I didn't have a lot of money to spend on modules. And Judges Guild modules were way cheaper than TSR modules. In fact, I didn't know this until later. TSR didn't think modules were the money making product. So they wanted to make a bunch of rule books. So they had licensed D&D or AD&D over to Judges Guild to make modules for. And then once they saw them making a lot of money, they started getting into it themselves. But theirs were all glossy with, high quality printing, where everything that Judges Guild did was on newsprint, black and white, or really bad multiple color. So I bought Judges Guild because they were inexpensive, but Judges Guild was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I mean, City-State was amazing, but here's a product they put out that most people don't know about called Wraith Overlord. This module, which is huge, it's 112 pages. It was full of maps and encounters and stories that all took place underneath the city-state, in the sewers and some dungeons and tombs that were underneath. Blew my brain. As if that wasn't big enough, they made a World Emperor, City-State of the World Emperor, and they made one called Tarantus. If you read the Conan novels, the capital of Aquilonia was Tarantia. Both of those led me to naming the main city in Arcanum Tarant. So if you're wondering where all that came from. What was amazing about these was there were stories for all these. There was a huge story for the city-state of the Invincible Overlord. The reason he was called Invincible Overlord was he didn't seem to be able to be killed. There had been attempts on his life. 2 of them succeeded, one provably so, in that they still had the head. The other one was done by an assassin who used a blade that drank the soul of the creature it killed. Both times, the Overlord reappeared within 24 hours. It wasn't it was really him. He had all the memories. It looked just like him, and he basically told everybody, I can't be killed. So, whoa. That's almost why the World Emperor gave him his chunk of the world. The World Emperor was super powerful. Neither of them knew about the underground Overlord that ruled everything below the city-state. Just blew my mind. As if that wasn't amazing enough, they put multiple books out like this. This is Wilderlands of the Fantastic Reaches. If you look on the back, this is the world, and it's broken up into 18 maps. Each of those maps looks something like this. Huge, huge map. Each hex on here is, wow, I don't remember. Is it a mile? 20 miles? I don't even remember. These are huge, and there's 18 of those. The Wilderlands had some NPCs in them, but they kind of detailed what all the settlements were, the villages and towns, how their population was, what major shops were there. And then there were lists of things besides that, like, here's a tomb, here's a dungeon, here's where a big dragon lives. And there were lists of encounters that were just one line that might say something like, this is an ancient graveyard, and on the night of a full moon, all the skeletons rise up out of the graves. That's all it said. But it was a seed that could encourage you to make a whole adventure based on that. It blew my mind. They had things like this. This is called Village Book. This lets you actually, it had tons of maps. It was mostly maps that look like this, that look like villages. But at the beginning, it had a procedural generation system for creating villages, where you roll everything from the population, the tech level, major NPCs that were there, what shops were there, what kind of roads they had, whether it had a wall around it, and if so, what the wall was made of and how it was defended. I liked that so much that for fun during COVID, I took Village Book 1's procedural village generation system and put it into Unity. So you could just hit a key and boom, it would generate villages. I didn't do the mapping, but I do have a separate program that does procedural terrain generation that I'm thinking about combining those and making it so you can just tap and it will actually generate a village in 3D. Since I have that dungeon generation one, I may be able to make a procedurally generated world. Who knows? This is just the kind of thing that blew my mind as, you know, a teenager playing D&D. And then this one, Book of Treasure Maps 3 by Rudy Kraft and Edward R. G. Mortimer. This one blew my mind so much, and I will show you a bit of it, that when I did Arcanum, I searched out Edward R. G. Mortimer and offered him contract work to work on Arcanum. He wrote a lot of the, when I explained Arcanum's generated dialogue, and I said it had to access tons of banks of dialogue where it would say, you know, good morning, or it'd say things based on your armor, or it'd say things based on your race, or it'd say things based on your class. We got Edward R. G. Mortimer to write a big chunk of those. But what amazed me about what he wrote in here, he had something called The Beast of Blackwater Lake. And this was an adventure. It was huge. It started in a little village, and there was a map, and it had the village all mapped out, and each hex here is 10 feet. And it would explain what was in every room of every building, and every NPC had stats and equipment, just like City State. And then it would expand out. And here was the next one. The little square in the middle is the previous map. This is all the surroundings. Each hex here is now 100 feet. It has the villages and not the villages. It has other houses and farms that are outside the city walls. It shows the very edge of Blackwater Lake, which there's a whole adventure there about the beast. Then you had the next map here, which has the lake, and each hex here is a fifth of a mile. And then it has the next one, which is the next one out, which each hex here is a mile. So each time you went up, it went up by a factor of 5. It starts showing nearby landmarks, then it starts showing things like rivers and nearby hills and trails and roads. It starts detailing all the things that live there, which include a dragon, a hermit, a gnome village, an elven village, a wandering druid. In fact, you went up to the highest map, which I just want to bring up because I really like this module a lot. This was the highest map, and that the last map that was a mile across is the square in the middle. And this one, each one is 5 miles across. And just what blew my mind was it went from that low-level detail of individual NPCs and what they wanted to do and quests they offered and things they talked about and rumors they offered to the highest level map, which showed a volcano that had salamanders and fire elementals living in it, and a giant set of woods that had that ancient green dragon living in it, and a valley which was full of weird creatures, and it turned out it had an interdimensional portal in it, but the only way you could find it is if you happened to cast See Invisible while you were in that valley. And even then, it just let you see it. It didn't let you know how it worked, and it was already set to jump to another dimension. But if you did bards know, the thing they had the bardic ability to learn how something worked, or I think identify from magic users. You could figure out that an air elemental could control it and make and redirect it to different dimensions. That became a huge leaping off point in my campaign for them exploring all these other worlds. So I could add different fantasy realms into my game. Judges Guild. So I've been talking a lot about it. Let me sum up the lessons that I learned from Judges Guild that you can see in my games. You know, aside of fact, I mentioned Tarrant and Edward G Mortimer. It taught me open world in a way that the TSR modules did not. Huge, huge open world, ripe for exploration, dotted with seeds for adventures, and some highly detailed. All their modules that they came out with their dungeons or other towns or whatever, were all set in that world, so you can go look them up. So you could find the town of Modron. You could find Tegel Manor, which is a haunted house. These were set in the world. The lore was very rich and genre crossing. The world used to be technological. There used to be spacecraft. But you didn't have to know that. Most people who played in this setting had no idea. So the biggest thing that I got from Judges Guild is this. It taught me to think big and broad and think small and detailed. And that has been in all the games I've made. It has been in everything I've done since then. And it goes back to Judges Guild. It basically opened my brain for what could be done in role-playing games. And it started doing that in the late 70s. And that's just amazing to me. And I don't think Judges Guild gets a lot of credit these days. Most people haven't heard of them. Or if they had, they heard about some stuff that went down with the son that took over the company. I'm just saying, separate art from artist on this one, because some of the products they made were amazing. I'm glad I got to experience them and that I didn't get to experience their downfall. But amazing stuff, and hope you like the new look on the channel.